Hello and good morning. I wanted to make this video today, even though I am a little bit sick still, I'm recovering. I wanted to talk about LH testing. Now, there's a lot of questions about LH testing when using fertility awareness, and I think in some circles within fertility awareness, the community, people really don't like LH testing, and I used to be kind of over in that circle. I didn't like it because of the common experience that a lot of people have where they get into fertility awareness or they start to get into it and they hear that LH testing can predict ovulation for them, which, by the way, is not quite true and misleading, absolutely, in terms of that terminology. And because of that, I don't want people to be misled, obviously. And so I just, for the longest time, had it in my head, LH tests, don't need them. They're so misleading. Why use them? Why waste your money on them? Blah, blah, blah. And I just really didn't like them. And now I think it was a bit of a misunderstanding on my part, because now that I know more about them, I know how to properly use them in according with FEM instructions, which is the method that I teach as a certified instructor. They're actually such a huge help. They're not hard to use, and they really increase the overall accuracy and confidence that I have with my charting and with my clients' charts. So I just want to show you, I'm literally just in my bathroom this morning, and these are my LH tests right here, just in the basket behind my toilet, as well as a little cup right there that you can pee into. And, my toilet papers are here, obviously. But it's super simple. I think that creating a setup to help yourself be successful with it is an important step. So don't place your LH tests all the way over there where you can't reach. You want them to be within arm's reach when you're going to the bathroom. I just took some LH tests. Let's see if you can see them. But yeah, these ones are both positive. I took two because I took one. I forgot to start the timer on it. And I was like, I don't know when to check that one. So I did another one just to make sure. And lo and behold, today they just happened to both be positive. The thing about LH tests that I love, there's two factors about them that I absolutely love. Number one, they add a third biomarker to your chart in addition to basal temperature and cervical mucus. And that third biomarker, when it aligns with your cervical mucus and with your temperatures, it really creates additional confidence when you're interpreting your chart to be really, really certain that yes, you have ovulated. So when you're trying to confirm ovulation, having LH tests, using them in a protocol like FEM that I teach, it just creates this trifecta of biomarkers so that you can be certain of what you're seeing. All three biomarkers are telling the same story about your cycle and about your hormones, and it really lends a ton of confidence. Reason number two why I love them and why I personally use them in every single cycle as much as I possibly can, unless I'm really in a bind where I'm super sick. I've been sick this cycle, but thankfully I just happened to catch the positive out of luck. But yeah, typically I try to do them every single cycle. And I encourage my clients to do the same. It's not something where you just need them for your first year or something and then you'll just magically know. It's no, this is another tool, just like cervical mucus, just like temperatures, that you want to be incorporating on a regular basis so you can really get the most out of it. But the reason why I love it, reason number two, is not only does it give you extra confidence and extra assurance and extra data that yes, you've ovulated, but also LH testing helps massively when you're trying to determine your correct peak day and your correct temperature shift. For example, I've experienced this. I've seen a bunch of clients experience this. It's just something that will probably happen to you at some point in your charting history, whether or not it's already happened. Maybe you've already experienced this. But if you've ever had a cycle where you are having your cervical mucus, you're having your temps, you're charting everything accurately, the data's all there, it's all good, and you start to have a temperature shift, and maybe the temperature shift looks a little bit too early, and then you're like, okay, but it's my shift, and then you're continuing to chart, and then you get what seems to be another temperature shift compared to the previous 6 temps, and you're like, okay, wait, which one is the actual shift? Is it the one that started earlier, but it was like way before my peak day? Or was it the one that started a bit later? It helps you to figure out and to really pinpoint more accurately which one is your actual shift. Obviously, this is critically important, not only for trying to avoid pregnancy, because you want to make sure that you're ending your fertile window correctly at the correct time, but it's also important so that you have an accurate luteal phase count by your temperatures or your other biomarkers. And so having LH testing data, it helps you to identify which of those temperature shifts that were a little bit confusing was actually the true one. And if you think about it, you can't have a temperature shift before your positive LH test. Why? Because the chain reaction of events that occurs would contradict that. So in a cycle, what happens is you need enough estrogen to build up rapidly and peak. That's going to trigger your LH surge. Your LH surge, that job is then to actually trigger the event of ovulation and the actual release of the egg from the follicle. And so that is why the LH surge is so key. And after that, obviously, if the egg has been ovulated, that is when you'll start to get your temperature shift. So the temperature shift can only follow after a positive LH test and ovulation, right? So obviously you can't get a temperature shift that's valid before ovulation. So again, having the positive LH test, it helps you to really avoid that type of mistake or error. It just lends much more confidence and accuracy to your chart. And I'm telling you, they're so easy to incorporate. Yes, it is an ongoing expense, I'm not going to lie. However, if you get Pregmate tests on Amazon, currently, right now in 2023, that's the brand that I've been using for years and I like to use. It's typically around $20 for 100 tests, and that will last you a long time. Do not go to CVS and get a 10-pack of tests for $14. That is so astronomically high price. Just don't do it. So I'd encourage, ordering either from Pregmate's website or an online retailer. They're much more affordable when you buy them in bulk, and they'll last you a long time. The other thing is with LH tests, and this is where this is kind of getting into the area or the side of them that I don't like. And spoiler alert, it's more for reasons of like misinformation than any actual fault of LH tests. It's more like how people may not misuse them, but maybe use them, inaccurately. So that is when you're LH testing only according to your cycle day. This is a super common mistake or inaccuracy, because it says oftentimes right in the packaging, and this is for people who don't actually chart their cycle. So if you don't actually chart your cycle and you just know when you bleed and how long your overall menstrual cycle typically is, if that's all you're going on, then yeah, you could start by just going by the cycle day. However, with the FEM protocol, instead, we actually go by the real-time biomarkers of our cervical mucus, because in most cases, unless something is off hormonally or physically, you're going to have cervical mucus showing up prior to your positive LH test. So with FEM, we start testing for LH once we start to see that estrogenic cervical mucus. So therefore, you don't need to waste tests earlier on in the cycle. You don't need to spend 10 days straight testing. You just would start to test once you actually start to see some mucus showing up. And it makes sense, because that is when you would, in theory, start to experience a rapid rise in estrogen that's reflected by your cervical mucus. So of course you don't want to save testing till then. So again, that's a common pitfall though, where a lot of times people will get super frustrated with LH testing. And this was a reason why I used to not like it, because people would say, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this LH testing, I'm wasting so many tests, so much money, so much of my time. Why am I doing this? It's so frustrating. I'm just seeing negatives, blah, blah, blah. And those are valid criticisms when you're testing like too often. And so with the FEM protocol, you don't need to test too often. You're saving the tests for when they're most likely to be accurate and actually get you results. And so, again, that's like one area where it's kind of a shortcoming, but it's more along the lines of how people use the tests. The other thing that I used to hate about LH testing, and now I just like understand it differently and I roll with it, is this key factor that a positive LH test will tell you when you're very likely to ovulate within the next 24 to 36 hours. However, ring, 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 this is key. It's never going to actually tell you that you will ovulate in the next 24 to 36 hours. So the distinction there is, yes, a positive LH test can tell you that it's very likely, but again, it's never an actual prediction. It's never actually a guarantee that you have ovulated or that you will ovulate. So this was an issue for people where, again, if you're only using LH tests and you're not charting your other biomarkers, it can be frustrating, it can be time consuming, and then you get a positive and you think, okay, I'm definitely going to ovulate now, but then maybe you don't, and it's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So again, the key factor is it's telling you when you're very likely to ovulate, but never a guarantee. So why is that even useful then? Because again, you're using it in combination and in tandem with your cervical mucus, with your basal temperature, to align all three biomarkers in a magical trifecta to help you confirm ovulation. It's never one single biomarker's job to confirm ovulation. You need at least two, temperature and cervical mucus, but ideally three with LH testing as well, if it's something that you want to incorporate. So I hope this video was helpful. I think that there's a lot of discourse around LH testing that, again, can be confusing, but I want to assure you, when you work with a certified instructor like myself, when you actually learn the full protocol and you learn about some of these pitfalls and you get guidance about them as you're learning, I assure you it makes the process way smoother, way easier. You can just skate right by those barriers that may have confused other people and really benefit very quickly from the addition of a biomarker like this, so that you're not confused and you have the guidance to do so. If you're curious and if you're serious about wanting to learn fertility awareness for birth control that's up to 99.6% effective when learned with a certified educator like myself, I offer an online course. You can learn about it in the description below. And typically I have free connection calls with people where you and I can meet. We can see, are we a good match for working together? Do we get along? Do you have any questions for me about the course or about the teaching experience or learning with me? And I can see where you're at, where you need help, and what your needs and goals are, so we can really work together and I can support you toward those goals. All right, everyone, I hope you have a great day or night whenever you watch this. Please leave me a comment below. Let me know what you want me to talk about next. I love to hear your ideas and your feedback. Let me know, like, did you also experience these pitfalls yourself with LH testing? Or is it something that you've been incorporating for a while and you love using? Let me know in the comments below. I will talk to you guys in the next video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.